One of the most amazing things is when our personal interests can be combined with our professional goals. Today, we'll be talking with honor student Natalie AmRhein about her undergraduate experience and how she was able to combine her interests for the outdoors and healthcare. Hey Honors Bowls, welcome to the Honor Roll Podcast, the flagship podcast of the Judy Genshaft Honors College Podcast Network. I'm your host, Reva Gandhi, a third-year student studying biomedical sciences and public health at the University of South Florida and a member of the Honors College. Today, my co-host is Caroline Merriman, a fourth-year student studying English and biology. Welcome, Caroline. It's good to have you back.
Thanks for having me.
As always, we like to start the podcast off with one big question. So my question this week is, Caroline, you're about to graduate. So what was your favorite memory at USF?
I think my favorite memory would have to be studying abroad. I went to Italy for 6 weeks over a summer, and I got to go with one of my closest friends. And I hadn't ever really traveled much growing up. Maybe I think just Florida and Virginia were the only place I'd ever been. And it was my first time out of the country and my first time away from my family. I lived with my family during college. So I think it was just really cool for me to get to have that time away, that time to myself, time away from school, just explore another city with my friends and make all those really fun memories that there wasn't always time for during the semester. And so I'm really glad that I got to travel and someone gave me money to go travel. And it was just a cool experience going to across Italy and to other countries like Croatia and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think studying abroad really kind of is that big moment in college, and it really changes your perspective on a lot of things. I'm a huge advocate for studying abroad because you get to do things that you wouldn't do here. And I think that's really special because it gives you a new perspective on the things you do in college and things like that. And so I think that if you can study abroad, you definitely should. And today we're going to be joined by Natalie AmRhein, who spent a lot of time studying abroad. And this year she's graduating with a dual degree in biology and environmental science and policy with a minor in German at the Honors College. All that and more coming up next.
Hi, my name is Maya Ryan. I am a second-year computer science student here at USF. My favorite honors experience is the climate teach-in. Last year, I participated in the climate teach-in career fair, and it was super cool to talk to a bunch of different companies that are working on sustainable efforts, and then also be able to offer my fellow students internship opportunities.
Go Vols! Hi, Natalie. Thank you for joining us today. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Thanks for having me on. Yeah, my name's Natalie. I'm graduating from USF here in a couple weeks, and I have a dual degree in medical biology and environmental science and policy with the analysis concentration, as well as a minor in German. So lots of fun different things. And I work here on campus with outdoor recreation. So I'm an adventure trip guide. So I like to say I have the dream job where I get to take other students camping. And yeah, so that's a little bit about me and my time.
So you mentioned you are preparing to graduate in a few weeks, but we're kind of going to rewind for a second. When did your interest in biology and environmental sciences start? Was this something you discovered in high school, or was this something you found in college?
I'm not quite exactly sure when it started. It's kind of always been there. I grew up in a very outdoorsy household. We were every weekend usually going hiking, climbing, doing something outside. And so for me, the natural world and biology and geology and all of those different things was just kind of things that were always there. It's not that I ever liked science more than my other classes. I always loved history. I loved all of them, but it just kind of felt like home to me, those, especially just the two of them together. I think environmental science takes a much more systems approach of how the world's so integrated and a very broad level, where biology takes a much more organism level and even microscopic and all that. And so I think for me, I've just always been very curious about the world. And so I really just wanted to kind of have the foundation of the rest of my life being very knowledgeable about our world and everything it includes. So it's just kind of always been my interest. I don't know.
Oh, I love that. You're from Colorado, though, which is, as you said, beautiful.
Yes.
So why did you choose USF?
So I love Colorado. I grew up in the West. I had never been east of South Dakota when I moved to Florida, but I knew that I wanted to go out of state for college. It was really important to me to see different places and do different things. And like I said, I've always been very curious and just wanting to see more of the world. And so for me, as much as I love Colorado, I love having it be home for me. It was really important to get outside of that and have a fresh slate and have a place that I could just really do what I wanted, be what I wanted, and have that space to really just explore. And so I actually got a letter in the mail from USF about the National Merit Scholarship, and they reached out and they were like, hey, consider us. And I'd never heard of the school. I had once jokingly said I would never come to the state of Florida, but I was like, all right, they're sending me a letter, let me check them out. And I did, and I, was able to come and visit USF. Actually, they had set up some tours, and I actually got to meet with honors advisors and all those things. And it just felt like an exciting adventure, and I was a little scared, a little nervous, and I didn't know anyone here, but it just kind of felt like, why not? Give it a try and see how it goes. And, worst comes to worst, so I could always transfer, but I was just like, I wanted the adventure. And so I think, USF made it very easy for me to say yes. So I was like, all right, here we go, let's do it.
I love that, like, every time we say we're never going to do something, like, that's exactly, like, where our life ends up going. That's
all
karma.
the time.
Karma for saying never.
It happens to me recently, too. Like, there's been things where I'm like, what am I doing? And I'm like, didn't I just say I would not do this? Or, like, I would never, get into this thing. Or, like, I feel like that's how it goes. So these days, I just, I don't say I'm never going to do something or I'm going to do it. I'm just like, well, what happens, happens. I'll just keep doing what I like, and that'll be the best way to go. So, but yeah, it was quite a funny coincidence. So,
as someone who didn't necessarily maybe want to come to Florida or even maybe want to come to USF in the first place, what do you think made you stay?
I think part of it was a little bit of my stubbornness, but also I was very fortunate to find outdoor recreation here. I think at the end of the day, when I boil it all down of what made me stay, it was definitely outdoor recreation here. They hire once a year in the fall, and so my first fall I was here, I was really struggling. I had a really hard adjustment period my first semester, and I really wanted to I felt like I was missing something, and I had called my mom, and I was crying, and I was like, Mom, I'm just really struggling. I don't know what to do. And she was like, all right, well, let's figure this out. My parents were like, have you been getting outside recently? Have you, what's been going on? And I was like, well, yeah, but I don't know, because this is all new things, and I don't understand the outdoors here. And so we actually ended up finding outdoor recreation, and we run programs for students or really anyone, but it's trips. So I signed up for a couple trips, and I went kayaking overnight to an island, which was something I'd never done before. And then I went on a week-long kayaking trip down in the Everglades with them. And it was just this crazy experience of seeing new things and meeting people. And it just felt once again like home. It was such a strong reminder of home. And so I was lucky enough to go through the interview process with them that fall. And then I left for study abroad in the spring, but I reached out when I came back the next year, and I was like, hey, I know you don't hire in the fall, but I was supposed to come on the training trip. Is there any chance there's any jobs available? And my now boss, he was like, we don't normally hire, but sure. We we had a weird time because I was still COVID, so the training trip actually got canceled. So they were like, well, we'll hire you on a probationary thing. And from there, I just kind of found my people, and it was such a sense of safety that I felt like it really allowed me to explore. And from there, it just, when things got tough, it was very much sense of home. And of course, there were other things, I'd made friends and stuff, but I think if I have to pick one thing, it would definitely be outdoor rec. So shout out outdoor rec. I love them.
I love how we find ourselves, we have our core self, and that we always keep going back to.
Yeah.
Like, it's that little sense of comfort. Like, for me, it's cooking.
Yeah.
Anytime I'm stressed, that's what I'll do. And I'm so happy
Yeah.
that you found the outdoor
Yeah,
way.
and I think it's just so, like, grounding is the most important thing, and it allows you to explore other things too. You know, from there I was able to meet new people or just have, like, that sense of community is really important. So I always love to find little communities. Yeah.
What are some of the places like you've taken people as like a trip leader?
So I have been very lucky to do lots of cool trips. I actually am going to Hawaii in a couple weeks. I'm leading a trip there, and I am over the moon about it. So I'm sure that will go down as probably the most exciting one. But I would say my favorite trips to lead are our backpacking trips. We tend to go up to the Appalachian foothills, and I've done a couple spring break ones where we're in the Smoky Mountain National Park. But I would say those are probably the most rewarding because you're just out there, you're with this group of people, and you wake up and your job is to get to the next camp. And I think you see people go through a lot. Like, backpacking is quite a difficult task, but I've seen the most growth and just joy and people becoming longtime friends from that. So I would have to say that's probably my favorite one. I've also gotten to go to Puerto Rico, which was so cool because I'd never been before. So lots of cool places, which I feel very lucky for.
So on the flip side of that, what is the hardest part about leading backpacking trips?
I would say there's two different sides. I would say that are the hardest part. One is taking care of, like, yourself so you can be present for others can be really hard. Just because you can kind of, like, get in this, like, robotic machine, like you're like, well, I have to, like, because as a trip lead, we are responsible for planning the trip, all reservations, all gear packing, transportation. We drive, we cook, we clean, we do all gear. Like, we pretty much do a lot of the various aspects of it, which I love, but it can be really hard to balance that with also being present and making sure you're engaging with everyone, but also making sure you're on time and on schedule. So it can just be hard sometimes, but I think it's been a really great lesson in self-care, and learning when to take those breaks is really important. And then the other hardest part, I don't know, we have cold trips. Sometimes they can be cold. So that can be a little hard. It's really hard to motivate people, but I think what's really cool is when, like, all the hard parts, they tend to be quite short-lived, and it's kind of like a momentary thing where you're just like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do this. Or when you've got a really big uphill and everyone's struggling and they kind of all look to you as like, well, what are we supposed to do? And you're like, I don't know, I'm out of breath too. I can barely make it up this hill as well. We're all in this together, like, you know. So it can be hard to balance and be human, but then again, like, you kind of get to the end of the day and you sit by the fire and everything's beautiful. So I think it can be hard, but the rewards definitely outweigh any of the difficulties.
Yeah, you'll have like a lot of stories to tell. You'll have coolness points at parties, you know. So transferable skills.
No, yeah, it's fun. I've made great friends from it, and you also just see people who, because we take a lot of people who have never been outdoors. Like, that's our big goal, is to break down boundaries for people to get outside. And it's really cool seeing people who start the trip and they're like, know nothing about it, or they're not sure they can do it, or they really struggle the first couple of days, and then by the end of it they're like, oh my gosh, I can do anything. Like, they're so excited. And so it's just really rewarding, and it's just fun. Who doesn't like a good camp in the woods? I don't know, I love it. It's so replenishing for me. So
Yeah, I mean, camping's a little outside my comfort zone, I would say, but I'd be willing to try it.
we gotta get you on a trip.
Yeah, if I'm with the right people, I think I
Yeah.
would enjoy it.
Yeah, 100%.
But shifting a little bit towards your academics, you mentioned that you were a National Merit Scholar, and obviously an honors student. So what opportunities had that opened up as an incoming student?
Yeah. Well, the National Merit was really helpful to kind of build that first sense of community. We have a banquet in the fall for freshmen every year. And so it's really cool to see all of these kids from different parts of the country. It's actually where I met my oldest friend was at banquet. We saw each other. We're from Colorado, and we were like, what are you doing here? And so that was nice. There's obviously the financial aspect of National Merit, which, really helped me be able to, like, do things like study abroad or be able to, like, afford to have more time to do extracurriculars and all of that. And then for the honors college, I feel like I keep bringing up community, but it's just such a large part of, I think, life and my college experience. But the honors college was really great in the sense of it, once again, was kind of a home in like a very big, chaotic world of college. I was able to find roommates. I ended up living with one of my people who I had the mentor class with. And so that was really nice as an incoming student. And then I was able to learn about study abroad and the advisors. And so I think just all of that support was what really made the difference. I think if I hadn't had that support as a person who like didn't know anyone, like I knew not a single person here when I came. So I think having that support, where even if I didn't know someone at the honors college, I knew I had people I could reach out to, was just really helpful. So
Yeah, I'm sure like starting off with all those like little connections and like pathways into spaces kind of like helps you feel a bit more secure. Like,
Yeah.
okay, maybe I'm not so unknown,
Yeah.
states away from like where I'm from.
Yeah, and it was nice just to be able to like meet with like my honors advisor or, reach out to people like ONS or just all those small things. And, not all of them made like lasting connections, but just having that sense of like almost like a bouncing board of ideas of meeting, being like, well, I think I want to change my major, but I don't know. And all these different things or, clubs, student orgs. It was just nice to kind of have that space, which I think is really cool about the honors college.
Yeah, I think the honors college is good at making a big space feel really small.
Yeah.
And you just meet so many cool people every day, which is amazing. But you did mention study abroad a couple times.
Just a few.
So let's take a little deep dive into your study abroad. So in your freshman year, you studied abroad on the honors semester in Exeter program.
Yep.
So what prompted you to take that leap your freshman year?
Yeah. Well, go big or go home. I mean, no, I'm kidding. Sort of kidding. Well, like I said, I had really struggled my first semester. Like that was really hard. And, I had felt really lost and I had found outdoor rec, but I was just really lost. And I think about this a lot of how I ended up on that trip. And I'm not exactly sure how I ended up meeting with Dr. Young, who runs the program. But I just remember meeting with him and talking about the program. And I was like, I knew I wanted to do study abroad coming in, and I knew I wanted to do a semester program because I wanted that length was really important to me. But I just remember meeting him and I'm like, well, I'm pre-med and I don't know if I have time. And now I have 2 majors and I don't know, and trying to meet with advisors. But everything just fell into place. It was a very easy process for me. And I really felt like Dr. Young was very welcoming and it was exciting, and honestly a little bit was a way for me to try to figure out if I wanted to stay at USF. It was kind of like I'm really struggling. This opportunity's come up. Why not? And it was the best decision I've ever made. It really taught me. I think I wasn't seeing my time in Florida as that first semester as exciting and as much of an adventure as I wanted it to be. And so when I was in England, I was really thinking, I'm like, well, why am I having such a great time and like doing all these things and so excited about the little things when I couldn't be in Florida? And so I kind of made like a vow to myself when I came back that I was going to treat living in Florida like a study abroad. And like every day was just as exciting, and, going to random places and exploring like springs or whatever was like, me going in England and going to the beach or something. And so it just kind of all fell into place. And I'm honestly, I'm not sure how it all fell into place. I think about it often. I'm like, how did that all work out so perfectly? But I think, it was a sign that it was right. And I really do think it's what helped me make the rest of my years at USF so exciting.
Yeah, I feel like perspective does you good. And
Yeah.
there's no better place than England.
That's for
I
sure.
think like England has this like air, and Dr. Young has this sort of presence where you just feel like safe and at home and comfortable to like share your
Yeah.
opinion, share your thoughts, and it kind of changes your
Yeah.
perspective on everything.
Yeah. Well, you also went on Exeter.
I
Did you
did.
did you also kind of like have that transition, or when you came back, did you feel like you kind of had a different perspective, or how was that for you?
I feel like after I came back, I struggled to find my place back here because I went my sophomore year. So I was already, I'm
Yeah.
from Florida, so I was more established in the area. I had the things that I was really involved with and I cared a lot about.
Yeah.
And, when you leave, things here don't stop. And so that was the hardest part for me is, catching up on everything I'd missed. And I feel like as it's now been a year since I went on the program, I feel like I'm getting back in the groove of things and, being able to like regain,
Yeah.
where I was before I left. But I wouldn't have changed it for, I think,
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
I mean, just like the places we got to go, the people we met.
The people are yeah.
And then
It's-
you're like, this happened 1 year ago today, pops up in your phone.
Oh
and then
my
the depression
gosh.
hits you, you get so sad. You're like, I was at Trevi Fountain 95 days ago. Oh.
No, but what's worse is one of my roommates went on the program with me. So we'll sit on the couch at night and we'll just be scrolling through pictures and we're like, do you remember doing this? So
That's so yeah. It can be a little sad sometimes, but it still exists. Make it
I
back.
guess it's good that
Yeah.
you're sad about it, right? It's good that
Yeah.
you like look back on it with that nostalgia of like, wow,
Yeah.
that was like a big event in my life, and I'm a different person because I
Yeah.
went
Yeah.
abroad.
Yeah.
Well, and it's weird because like I didn't expect to miss it as much as I did because I moved so much as a kid that I was like, oh, it's one thing to the next. Like it's just a place.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like missing it in the fall and I'm like, why does it
Yeah.
feel like a piece of me is gone?
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely is a good lesson in seeing things and experiencing things, but also learning how to like handle change.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a big thing in college is things are always changing. Even like year to year here, things change so much. So it's a good lesson in life.
Yeah.
Great life lesson.
Yeah, being able to make those connections like anywhere you go, whether you're in the country or
Right.
out of the country, whether
Yeah.
you're in a different job or not. I think that's
Yeah.
a good thing. Kind of shifting over, I guess, to back to your academic experience. You've done a lot of undergraduate research.
Yeah.
And so we want to kind of talk about that a bit. You were involved in Dr. Alfredo's research lab. Can you give us an overview on some of your projects, the things that you studied there?
Yeah. So Dr. Alfredo is an environmental engineer. And I found her just on a website cold emailing her. But what was really unique about her is that she's an environmental engineer, but she's very integrated in looking at policy and health, which is why I was drawn to her. And so she was like, yeah, come on. And so I joined with them, and we have worked on our big project was my honors thesis, which was looking at Superfund sites and environmental contamination with health outcomes. She's also helped me, and we've worked on like literature reviews on like contaminant levels, PFAS, PFOS, that sort of stuff. Some lab experience. She helped connect me with a research project I did through NSF. It was an IRES program summer in Ghana, where we worked on environmental like water sanitation and science education. So I feel like I've done a lot of different things, kind of a mixed bag, a lot of learning R coding, which was that took me that was a beast, and I still feel like I'm not very good at it, and like I never will be. But so a lot of my time with her has just been kind of like dabbling on different projects and environmental health indexes, but the big one was my honors thesis.
Looking for a way to make your resume stand out? Phi Beta Kappa is the nation's most prestigious honor society, recognizing the top liberal arts students at the highest ranked institutions across the country. Membership in Phi Beta Kappa not only enhances your resume, boosting job and graduate school prospects, but also places you among elite company, including presidents, Supreme Court justices, world-renowned scientists, authors, and cultural icons. Learn more about Phi Beta Kappa. Visit usf.edu/Phi Beta Kappa.
So, speaking of your honors thesis, can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, so it really started as like an organic process and question of environmental health. So that's kind of my basis, is I'm really interested in understanding the health impacts and medical outcomes of environmental things like climate change, our built environment. So it started as that, and I worked through the thesis process of making my prospectus and all those things. And so what it ended up being was we found our Superfund sites are EPA designated heavily contaminated sites, whether groundwater, and it's different contaminants, but they're deemed to be like a health hazard, an environmental hazard, all these things. And there are I believe 13 of them in Hillsborough County actively. And so what I ended up doing, it was a spatial and statistical analysis of Superfund sites in the county and their health outcomes. So we looked at like life expectancy, asthma, smoking, and then the kind of additional component, which I thought was really fun, was I worked with the USF library in the special collections. And I got to kind of add a historical aspect and lens. So I literally dug through hundreds of boxes, looking at documents and finding, letters from people who live near these Superfund sites and, government documents and pictures and all these different things to kind of add the lived aspect of what the data says and means. Because I really think like science communication is important. So it was basically like a Superfunds and health and history. It's a lot.
It makes sense though when you like bring it all together, right? I think the historical context like gives you somewhere to move forward with the implications of the research. So I think that's a really interesting aspect, and it does like it makes it more fun, right?
Yeah.
It brings people to the center of something where people often aren't.
Yeah, well, and it's such a human question of health is such a human thing, and I think sometimes when you just like have the data and things, it's like, oh yes, there is a statistical correlation between those things, but adding that historical lens, I think brings it back to the human realm of saying, yes, there's a significance between Superfunds and negative health outcomes, and these are the people it affects, and these are their stories, and these are the communities. And I think that is a really, really cool and important aspect of health research. So I think that was really rewarding, is I never really knew how to incorporate that. And it was something that was kind of like my big dream from the beginning of this process, was like, I want to incorporate the human aspect, which honestly all started with Dr. Young and from his classes where he talked a lot about like the human experience and, phenomenology, which I will never forget. Thank you, Dr. Young. I'll never forget phenomenology. But that was like my really big dream. And so being able to bring that all together was just so rewarding. And I've found as I've been presenting and talking to people, that is the interesting part of it. Of course, the data is interesting and it's important to have, the statistical and, I mapped all the statistics so I could see in the county where it's happening. But then bringing it back into the human realm is, I think, where the most interesting conversations I've had about it have really started.
Yeah, it gives you like almost something to connect to, and you're like, oh yeah, like this actually impacts me. It's not just a number.
Yeah.
And I think that's hard to find, and it's different for you to research, because a lot of our research happens, online, and we're digging through archives. So this was definitely different compared to that.
Yeah, it was really cool, and I never thought I would work in an archive of a library. If you had told me that 4 years ago, I'd been like, are you out of your mind? But it was so fun. So yeah, I highly recommend chasing that.
No, I remember I visited you in your office one day and there are just maps everywhere. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is happening here?
Yeah, it definitely filled, I love maps, hence the analysis part of my degree, which they now have a GIS major, which I'm sad they didn't have when I was, because I love GIS. And so I'm like the ancient GIS people. I'm like, I feel old now. But yeah, and so I think the maps and being able to like see those maps, and then that really inspired me to create maps in my thesis. And once again, like when I was presenting it, people would be like, oh yeah, like the numbers are cool. But then when they would see like the maps of showing like this is where it is, and they could like, you know, it's for Hillsborough County, it's for here.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people would be like, oh my gosh, that's this area, or that's here. And then they'd be like, oh my gosh, like I recognize that, and like talking about the history. It was just like a really cool experience. So go maps. Also, shameless plug for maps. I love maps. I have them plastered all over my walls. Yeah.
You mentioned a few times about like presenting the research and having this like tangible aspect of bringing the data off the page. And you actually presented at Climate Health Equity Day 2025 in Washington, D.C. Can you tell us about this experience of kind of traveling and meeting people?
It was honestly one of my highlights of my undergrad. I found the conference by just like Googling. I was kind of stuck in my crisis of what to do post-grad, and knowing I want to go into medicine, but knowing I have a few things I want to do first. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want to do environmental health, but are there people out there doing this? Like where? And so I was just Googling, and I stumbled upon this conference that was medical professionals advocating and doing climate change research on health. And I was like, oh my gosh, I found them. Like there they are. I need to go. So I submitted to the Student Research Day, which was the Health Equity Day. And it was like 30 minutes before the deadline. I was like, maybe I shouldn't. I was like, the worst they're going to say is no. Like, why not? I'll just give it a try. So I submitted. And then next thing I know, they're like, you're in. And I was like, no way. And so I got to go and talk with medical students, medical professionals, hospital administrators, all these different people who are exactly in the area that I want to go. And then seeing them interested in my research and talking to me was just like this sense of like, okay, this is what I want. Because I've been feeling a little lost. And so, reaching out and really taking that step. And, luckily the Honors College is very supportive. So they helped me, with the conference and everything. But just being able to talk to those people. And once again, that idea of community, like I felt just this sense of community that I hadn't, I'd done environmental health stuff and I wanted it, but people were always like, well, like doctor and climate stuff, like, are you sure? And I was like, I swear it exists. Like I do. And then finding this and seeing this, it just really was inspiring, I think. And so it very much refilled my cup of this is what I want to do. And so just having that exchange and having my thesis allow me that opportunity to like get to that place was just, I will forever be grateful for that. Yeah. So yeah, it was awesome. And I got to see DC. We got to do Capitol visits. We got to go talk with legislators about climate change. And that was really cool because I'd never done that before. I'd never thought I would be talking with legislatures about these things, and then seeing the doctors advocating. It was just, like I said, very inspiring. And so I think, if you see something that's like, oh, I want to do that, just submit, just try, like, or attend. It's really cool. And so luckily conferences are fun.
Well, from, traveling to research, your niche really has become this like environment, climate, but also healthcare and medicine. Mm-hmm. So how have these like global and international, national experiences shaped your global perspective on climate care?
Going to all these different places and having these experiences, and also experiencing, all these international experiences have been kind of through different lenses. It's been different. Not every single one of them has been like health or environment. Some of them were like, the Exeter program, I was just taking regular classes and the honors classes, which are not environment or health at all. But I think seeing how it is a topic of conversation everywhere and seeing that everyone's thinking about this and working on this, I think really gets to the reason that I love this niche so much is because I think it's at the core of human, like what it means to be human. We're so like, you can't remove humans from the world. We are connected to our world, our environment, the ecosystems, a lot of health determinants and all of that have to do with our environment. And then, health is so tied to what it means to be human. And it's such a human practice to care for people when they're struggling. And so for me, this environmental health question is just so fundamentally human. So I think seeing that and seeing that throughout the world and the different approaches has been really interesting to kind of give me new ideas or new perspectives. And it's something that I'm excited to carry forward for my future international and, here in the U.S. experiences. But I think just seeing how human of an issue it is has been really interesting just across the globe.
I mean, yeah, that's a cool experience to have. I think a lot of times, like when you're in academic spaces, you think like that's where you're supposed to get all your knowledge from, and you don't realize that like getting out of the academic space actually inspires a lot of your work and enriches your work. And like you have to like live in the world and be in the world to do research that is about the world.
Yeah, I think that's a great
and
way
so
of
I
putting
think
it.
getting out of your space and like listening and talking to other people, any perspective shift is going to like take you out of that like I've been trapped in a lab for 60 hours this week type of perspective.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I think it's also really cool for those who lab is their passion. And like, I mean, lab is so crucial, but to be able to see that and how it impacts the world is so rewarding and beautiful, I think. And so I think just having that blend between the two, and I think about like in Ghana, I was able to work with them in a lab in a water sanitation lab. We helped them out a bit, and then we were also though out doing science education with kids who wanted to go to college and stuff. And so kind of talking about those two worlds and seeing them together and telling, and then we were doing a science project with the kids. So we kind of got to bring these lab skills and help them learn those lab skills so they can go out and just, I don't know, I think, just that sense of don't confine yourself. There's, the world's vast, be vast.
Be as vast as the world.
But your accomplishments definitely speak for themselves. And last year, you were inducted to Phi Beta Kappa, which is one of the most prestigious honor societies within the United States. So how has this society, being part of this society, impacted you?
I think sometimes it can be easy to get, for lack of better terms, lost in the sauce.
Really.
And it can be really easy to just get so bogged down in everything that I just think the fact of being inducted was such a recognition. And I remember last year when I saw that, I was a little struggling to like, I had been doing so many different things and I was just feeling very burnt out, and I saw that and it was just a recognition that helped replenish and like refill what I needed to keep going. So it was like, okay, this does matter. This is important. Like it is being seen, and it, all the hard days are worth it. So I think just the recognition alone was enough. And it's still something that, of course, has helped me, I think, get into like grad school. And again, it's another sense of community. I like going on the PBK website and trying to like find like, oh, what opportunities are there? Like, what are they doing? What's, as I'm looking towards grad school and all these different things, it's a sense that I know, kind of like how I was talking about the honors college as an incoming person, like as an incoming adult, I think it's going to be like a really nice thing that it may not necessarily lead to anything, but it's something that I know I have and will be there for the rest of my life. So just kind of like one of those stability things that I think will be nice as an incoming adult.
Yes, and having something like, okay, I've kind of like secured my legacy. Like, I've done something, and it's hard when you get into college and it's like it feels like all the endings are happening, right? Like everything's closing. The things I used to do are no longer going to be the things that I do now.
Yeah, that's tough.
And you have something to kind of go back to, and like look back on and be like, okay, I'm still kind of connected in some way.
Well, and it's exciting because the PBK induction for this year is actually this evening or this afternoon, which I'll be volunteering at that. So it'll be nice to kind of have like a little full circle moment of see all the new people and like recognize them. And it's just such a wholesome event. Like it's just, I don't know, I just think it's really nice. And so definitely, yeah.
Try to get into PBK.
Yeah. Go PBK.
Try to impress PBK. So kind of to wrap up today, we've heard so many cool things about what you've done, where you've been, how you've kind of lost and found yourself over and over again. What is next for you now that you're going to graduate in a few weeks?
Yeah, so I am so excited. I got into my dream grad program, so I'll be headed, it's an Erasmus program, and it's called International Masters in Innovative Medicine. And buckle up because it's a lot of long words. So it's a dual master's program, 2 years, 2 masters. My first year, I'll be doing a master's in translational medical research at the University of Heidelberg in Germany. And I'll be working with the medical faculty in Mannheim. And then my second year will be a master's in molecular medicine and innovative treatment at the University of Groningen in the Netherlands. Lots of words, too many words. Every time I tell people, I'm like, give me 30 seconds. This is going to take. But no, it's kind of continuing that thread. It's the reason I chose this program and applied to it was, again, it just felt very human and acknowledging that medicine and innovation and treating future problems and current, global health problems is a creative thing, and it's something that can't just be removed from the research. So their big aspect of the program is this learning line called BBB, and it's bench to bedside and beyond. So it's bench work, bedside clinical work, and beyond. So we'll take business and entrepreneurship classes, and the big 2-year project is working with our cohort members to create a startup or a research project, but mainly a startup of innovative medical treatments. So it's very focused on, I think, from my understanding, being creative and, having that translation between the bench and the lab with the people that it impacts. So I'm excited because I feel like it transitions nicely from the time I've had. And, I'm hoping that that'll help me in being able to go on and work on climate health stuff. So I'm very excited.
Yeah, it's like a new adventure, as you
Oh,
put
yeah.
it.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be a little nervous, a little scared, but it's I'm really excited, and I think it should be really cool, and yeah, new adventure for sure.
For sure. And it's almost full circle for you coming from Colorado to Florida, and now you're going abroad, combining this really niche interest. So what advice do you have for honor students who might be interested in comparing multiple interests?
Yeah. I would say do a 2-sided approach. Okay. So the one side is dream big. Really think about, what interests you want to combine, and think about 20 years down the line what a large thing is, or for me it was, I want to be a doctor who's also working on climate change research, and that was my big thing, and I was like, all right, okay, so now I have my dream big. And the other side of the approach is baby steps. It all comes down to doing small things, and not every path is going to pan out. I have plenty of paths from the past few years that just ended up being skills learned. But reach out to people, find, you're not going to necessarily always find someone who's doing exactly what you want to do, but, find someone in one of your interest area, talk to them, find someone in your other interest area, talk to them, and then be like, can we meet together? Or, it's also in the small things of, as college students, we do a lot of projects. And so one of the things I found was helpful of in those classes and in those projects, if, that is in one of your interests, but not the other, when you have these projects, add in a little section about that intersection or about those two together, learn about it, try to start making your own research ideas. And also just in your personal life, just creative, and don't be down. There's always gonna be people who tell you that doesn't exist, or you can't do that, stay on the path. But, just have fun with it is also, I think, really important. Those baby steps can be frustrating, but have fun with it. It's exciting to do things that are merging, and exciting to kind of do something that maybe hasn't been done to the same extent before, but yeah, just have fun with it and take the little baby steps. Don't get discouraged. And, as you're doing the baby steps, like, dream big. And, if the baby steps are getting frustrating, then take a step back from it. Like, you don't have to constantly be, like, draining yourself. And, there have been times over the past few years where I was like, never mind, I can't do this. I'm done.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay to take a step back. It's okay when things don't work out. It's all a journey. And like I said, the paths that don't pan out, don't be frustrated about that. Just be like, oh, well, I now have this skill, I guess, and there'll be ways to use it later. Like, I've never regretted any of my side quests. They've always helped me in the end. So, just have fun with it. I think that's my biggest advice.
I love that advice. I think sometimes we like overcomplicate things in our head and we're like, oh, I'm supposed to have like the next 25 years of my life mapped out and I'm supposed to have all the jobs that are going to get me that job and take me to that place. And it's just as simple as like going from one thing you like to the next thing you like and the next thing to you like and then seeing what opportunities like that opens up for you. And not to reject like following a lot of things at one time. I mean, be like multi-hyphenated. You're gonna get like 40 years down the road and then you're gonna be tired if you chose one thing.
Exactly.
So like let your life have an interesting future, I guess.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, there's ways of fun ways of incorporating. Like, I think my job at Outdoor Rec, like that for me helped me a lot because it was fun and I was learning, but also like I'm a certified wilderness first responder, so I know how to like reduce dislocations and far out things. And that for me was like, okay, well, there's in some way like not climate change in medicine, but it's like outdoors in medicine. And, there's ways of doing it. It doesn't have to be purely academic. Now, of course, do the academic, like you have to do those steps. Those are necessarily things and have fun with it, enjoy it. It also makes the projects easier when you add like your interest because sometimes projects can be real hard to get through when it's just like one way. But when you can kind of incorporate it, and teachers are excited when you do those things. I've never had a teacher be like, no, I don't want you to like add depth and perspective and knowledge. Like they're always very excited and you'll find people are often very supportive and, allow yourself the help. So I think just have fun. It's college. Have fun.
Period.
Yeah, that's some good advice. I wish I got that when I was starting out.
Yeah, real.
Well, that's all we have time for today. So thank you, Natalie, for joining us.
Having me.
All right, we're back in the studio. Reva, what did you think of the podcast today?
Natalie was really cool. I loved how she was able to, find her niche in college after, a little bit of a tumultuous start. But she really, honed her passion, stuck with what was true to her. She was able to grow really big from there.
Yeah, I think it's just a testament to the fact like you kind of just have to keep going and keep trying new things and like eventually you kind of land somewhere.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the coolest parts about the Honors College because we offer that support to students and we're able to give them those opportunities. And if you're interested in more opportunities like the ones that Natalie had, don't forget to check out the Honor Roll newsletter and our website at usf.edu/honors for upcoming events, updates, and news. That'll do it for this week's episode. The Honor Roll podcast is recorded in the Judy Genshaft Honors College at the University of South Florida Tampa campus. Production assistance is provided by honors student Sandra Napolitano. Thank you all so much for listening. Please do not forget to rate and review our podcast. We really appreciate your feedback. Tune in next week where we hear more honor stories and talk to more members of the Judy Genshaft Honors College. Until next time, go Bulls!